Okay, we are recording and welcome everybody. Thank you again for being here today with the Web Users Group. I wanted to note before we get rolling here right off the top that it's been a long journey to get to this meeting. Maybe not this exact meeting, but to the point that we're at right now. And I feel like I want to thank a lot of people for feedback, engagement, their patience as we've gotten closer to rolling out a new service. We've taken your thoughts, suggestions about the kind of web service that would best meet your needs today and into the future, and we now have the new UCSE WordPress service that has lots of benefits to it. Modern design and flexible web content management system. We've got training, we've got consultation, we've got community like this group right here to support folks in their path forward. Thank all the people that have been involved, specifically the web team. I mentioned Teresa earlier. Teresa guided this thing for many, I won't say years, many days, let's say. And I want to thank all the people that have been involved in this, especially members of this community too. This is a milestone for UCSC, and I want to treat it that way. This is something new and different, and change is happening here, and this is a good thing. This is more, this new content management system is more than just a list of features. It's a different way of thinking that we're going to approach our web, and I think it's going to be a stronger partnership for all of us here today. So standing down off my soapbox, since we have a larger group, for those with low, limited, or no sight, or just an audio mode here, my name is Adam Hilsmeyer. I'm in my home office right now. I've got a Zoom background on, a UC Santa Cruz Zoom background. And I like it because it's got some flowers and the perspective is very low from the ground, which makes it look like they're giant trees. And I'm like this kind of miniature person like on the ground, which is funny in my head. Maybe it's not in everyone's head, but what I'm going to do is share the ground rules in chat, as well as the acknowledgement of the land that we're on, so we can think about ways we can make a personal and institutional commitment to a shared future together. If you are comfortable with sharing, please do say hello to your fellow web users in chat. And while you're doing that, I'll kind of walk through some of a little more details on the agenda that we're doing today. We're going to start off with a quick scenario to walk through, and it'll be helpful if you have a secondary window open other than your Zoom window to kind of walk through this thing. You can also use your phone. I'll give you a QR code in just a second to help you get in there. We're going to talk about the ways you can best engage with the web service if you haven't already. We'll talk through some best practices, including using some of the design elements. This will be a continuing topic that we'll have. We'll talk about domain names in just a moment, and we'll talk about learning WordPress and what that looks like to you, especially if you're not familiar with WordPress. So thanks, folks, for saying hello in chat. We're going to move into a quick scenario here. And I'll share yet another link in chat. I'm going to ask you to go to this URL. You can either click the one that I just posted in chat, or you can go to menti.com and use this code. When you do get there, yeah, give me a little thumbs up here. You'll either see a thumbs up depending on your screen size in this area or this area. Just let me know that you're alive and we're here and breathing. And I'll give everyone a moment to populate that. The scenario we're going to do is you need to make a purchase, a business purchase. Hopefully that's not too far out of the realm of reality. And we're getting a good number of folks hopping on here. I'll still give it like just another moment here for folks to onboard. And it's a good time to grab a sip of coffee. I do love seeing everybody saying hello in the chat, so thank you for that. Okay, let's do this thing. So the scenario is, imagine you are ready to make a purchase for UCSC. You search, and the results display a university website, and you look at the URL. of that website or the web address that you'll see. What you have is some choices for rankings in front of you. And what I'd like you to do is select the URL that you would choose first based on this task that you're going to do. And you can rank the rest in there, or you can not rank the rest. But what I'd like you to do is select those options. And you should be seeing a screen right now, other than the Zoom screen, to say, which one would you choose? And I'll give everybody 60 seconds. Look at them and say, what looks legit to you? And maybe I'll take this out so it doesn't bias anyone's opinion here. Hoping it's not too much of a stretch. Like, I don't have one of those, whatever they are, purchase cards. I have to go through someone to do that. But just imagine that's what you're doing, is you're making the purchase. Okay, I'll hop back in here. So one popped out there. We'll circle back to this. And you are welcome to continue to do this task as we continue through the rest of the presentation. But we'll circle back to that. A couple of housekeeping items. For those of you that are familiar with the Open Lab is a learning session, a kind of a co-working session where you can come and bring your questions. There's an Open Lab later this week. We decided to ramp up the schedule of those, so they are going to be every single week at varying times, in case you can't make like the standard time that they are. So those are going to go once a week, and those are complete opportunities for you to bring any and every question that you have about your website, using WordPress. What's the best strategy here? How do I do this thing? How do I do that thing? Every question there is welcome, and Open Labs are a great place to surface those questions, because it's very likely if you have a question, other people have that question too, and that's kind of the point of that community space. I did want to note, as people are onboarding to the WordPress service, to talk about protected data on public websites. So everything that, if you're hopping into the UCSC WordPress service, we're going to consider that a public website. And we have website standards, and we also have data information protection levels. I'm going to share those in chat right now. Our recommendation is that you do not produce any type of data that is beyond what's described as P2. And the data information protection levels describe what is P1, 2, 3, and 4 level data. So anything that's HIPAA related, all those things that fall into the category of P3 and P4 data should not be included on your public website. We need a different solution for that, because that's a security issue. It's also, a data issue for the entire campus itself. If you want to follow up on that, please feel free to reach out, but I'm going to leave those web standards and the data information protection levels there for you to pursue. Let's talk about using the WordPress service now that it's available. We've had about 24 or so requests so far. And I would note that each of those requests that comes in is being checked with the website liaison as to who's involved in that unit. If you don't have a website liaison specifically for your unit, we're still working through a couple scenarios for divisions who don't have them to get somebody so you can contact. The idea of checking with your website liaison is to make sure that your division is doing things in a coordinated fashion, and this unit and that unit aren't just randomly doing things. We talked about a choreography of the way that we want to produce our websites. If you don't know who your website liaison is, this is a resource that you can use right now, websites.ucsc.edu. And under one of the main tabs, we have the link of who your website liaison is. Another question that we've been getting is, do I need to use the service today? Do I need to do this right now? I would say the answer is no. You don't. There's no deadline. There's no current deadline to say that you need to move from your current platform. For many of you, that's WCMS, into the new UCSC WordPress platform. we're eventually going to set a date of when WCMS will retire. And that's going to be part of, the service here too, is that WCMS is going to eventually go away. So if you are in that platform, you will need to move eventually into that. But that date is not today. That date is probably like a year or two down the road, because we want to be flexible with your time and resources as we're moving forward, because we know not everyone has time to devote a full-time 40 hours to transitioning a website today. So maybe we can split that up over time. The other sub question that we got involved in that is, once I'm in the new platform, do I have a deadline to publish my site? And I would say no, actually. The answer is no to that as well. Once you're developing your website in the new WordPress platform, that's on your schedule as to when you think you can roll it out. Just note that as you're transitioning, you're going to be updating your WordPress site and updating your other one at the same time. So you're managing two things at once, and that ends up being volume of work. So, the recommendation would be is like, make this plan to commit to the transition and then move things. We'll put you in probably better shape there. How do I request a website? Many of you got the email about how to do that. Just wanted to walk through this one more time for old time's sake. Again, websites.ucsc.edu is the location you do that. We've kind of refactored some of these components on here to really do clear action design, and you'd go right here to request a website. When you do go to request a website, you get to this page, and yes, I know this is a little cinched up close to the navigation. That's a fix that's being worked on right now. You go right here to request a UCSC WordPress website, and we even detail before you go to that form, here's the things that you need to complete or that you'll want for the form. When you do click on this button, it takes you into ServiceNow, where you're going to fill out this form with some information. And I won't walk through that entire process, because you can do that as you're moving forward. As you work on your website, let's say you want something else, like, can it do this thing for me? Or I found a bug, a la this thing right here that shouldn't be working the way it is. How do I tell somebody about what to do with that? You can report a bug to us right here. It's in our main navigation right at the top. You can also deliver feedback to us. There's ways to share feedback right on the homepage, and this will just take you to a form that will get submitted to, well, me actually, and I'll see those and I'll respond to those like ASAP, because I want you to know that support is here for you. Once you do make that website request, we actually walk through what happens with your work here, but there'll be a getting started session, which is essentially going to walk through a lot of the components that we have for WordPress. Those will be scheduled every other week. The email that you get, which is a bounce back after you submit your request, will have the link about how to sign up for that. And we hope that that's going to be an informational session. Are you going to learn everything in the world about WordPress in the 90 minutes that we'll cover there? No, of course not. But we'll give you the basics, and that's why we have open labs to back it up, so you can come back and circle back with questions there. Let's go to one more step about when you're using the new service. Several questions have come in is like, what does my URL look like? And how is that going to work? Well, when we provision you a website, when we give you that test website, your working website name will be the name of your site, sitename.wordpress.ucsc.edu. To log into your site, you can see it right here. You can do two paths. You can use that same wordpress.ucsc.edu URL/WP-admin, or you can go to wordpress.ucsc.edu, and that will log you into your site. There is documentation on the website's site about how to do this as well too. And then note that you're going to be working in the platform under the URL that is sitename.wordpress.ucsc. When it's time to launch, we'll make the change for you so that WordPress goes out of your URL and you just get, the example here is history. You'll go to history.ucsc.edu. And that also begs the question, what if I already have ucsc.edu and WCMS? Can I still work on this WordPress version? The answer is yes. And anything that you do in your, like, call it test or development of the WordPress version of your site won't override anything that exists in WCMS at the moment. At the point of launching the site, it will override, and your new URL, your new website will be that WordPress one. That's a complex, thought process through. Any questions on that? Feel free to pop in chat or mic on if that works. We also provide in the emails that you get after you complete the form and when you're provisioned the site, you'll get the same information too, so you don't have to write this down right now. All right, we'll keep moving. Not everyone uses Slack. That's okay. We're going to create a Slack channel for folks who use WordPress. The idea, again, is community, to share best practices, shares ways that we can do things. And we want to make that easier for folks. It's okay if you don't use Slack. You don't have to join the community. But we want to make that present there. So it is a resource that you can develop and even talk to. There's lots of us in this group here. Maybe one of us has an answer that the web service won't turn away or turn over, like immediately. So that's something that we're going to provide. We'll send out a link in the follow-up email to this meeting that has the video, all the resources we covered today. And there'll be a Slack channel soon for us. Covering in chat, Lauren notes, something to note is that links can go to your history.wordpress.ucsc and they will be mapped over when they changed all. Yes, thank you. So, anytime that you create a new page or a new link, it's going to be correctly mapped on launch, I think is the gist of what Lauren was saying is there. Parker notes, we will still have access to WCMS content after we go live in WordPress. Good question. Bryn, what are your thoughts on this one here? Will folks still have access to WCMS content?
I can speak to that. Yes.
Sorry, I was on mute. Go ahead, Tom.
Yes. That content from WCMS will no longer be live on your website because now WordPress has taken over that name, but you can still log into wcms.ucsc.edu and your site will be in that WCMS tool there until WCMS goes away.
Thank you. Yes, for a time until that service is retired, Brad.
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you for hopping on. Lauren notes, just triple checking, history.wordpress.ucsc.edu is going to be a different instance than history.ucsc.edu until we make the changeover. Feel free to hop in. I think the answer is yes. Triple check, yes, yes, and yes.
Yes.
That's the answer.
Yep.
Okay. Lisa notes, Lisa's an admin of Feminist Studies. What do you mean by type of website? Also, will it be possible to toggle back and forth from WCMS and WordPress to cut and paste text? The second half of your question is yes. You can absolutely go from your public site even and just copy paste into WordPress to drop components in there. I would encourage you to review the content that you have, so it's not just like a pick up, a lift and shift from one to the other. Think about what content is the most important. Hopefully you've been doing that over time, and you will still be able to just like drop those things in there. WordPress actually makes that somewhat easy. There's not like a full, you can't just like migrate an entire site in, but you can just drop content in a pretty simple way. Type of website, let me double check on that. Lisa, I think that's in the form that we're asking when you ask for what type of website. And I believe that question is this right here. What's the main type or purpose of your website? Is it an intranet? Is it a departmental website? What are those things? for UCSE WordPress, it's probably going to fit into this category most often. Maybe a center, but that is probably, I think, the question you're looking for when we say type of website. Ronnie asks, will WordPress training videos through LinkedIn be available after August? This page only says through August 2023. Good question.
Yeah.
Oh, let's circle back on that. I'm not sure what the answer is there. Unless Rob or Bryn or Tom have a thought on that.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay. We'll make a note on that and we'll circle back with that answer.
Hey, Adam, I have a couple questions. Are we going to do a Q&A at the end, or shall we insert them right here?
We are going to do a Q&A at the end.
Okay.
I gave everyone pause because we covered a lot of material there.
I have the for LinkedIn, by the way, just because I worked with that. It's funded through another year, through next August 2024. So it'll still be available. Everybody has it, so use it as much as possible.
Thank you, Stephanie. Appreciate that.
Sorry for the shameless plug.
Nope, it was a useful plug. So good work. Okay, that looks like it covers the questions in chat. Let's talk some best practices. I had to make a rhyme, of course. Sharing 2 links again in our chat. We're going to start developing best practice news articles to kind of support more information that you will find on websites.ucsc.edu. The first one is about using acronyms as your website's name or your domain name. What I'm going to say is these are recommendations and best practices of what to do. You are going to make the call on your website, but just note that there are best practices in this area. And noting, if we could circle back when we talk about URLs, we did this earlier today. And I wonder if I could actually even open the chat again about, does anyone want to share why they chose purchase.ucsc.edu over those other choices that we did? And you don't have to.
I'll go.
You know,
I'll go.
Yeah, please do.
Because it's obvious. Because it's really clear what you do when there is an understandable word as the domain name.
Great. So in chat, it said exactly what I wanted to do. It was directive and descriptive, maybe is another way to phrase that. It's an actual word. That's their email address for help. I didn't know what the other ones meant. Full word names are clear. Great notes. I would agree. I think that's what we're kind of noting in the article. URLs are a factor in search engine optimization. Are they one of the top factors? Maybe not. I think it's a part of it. So there's that concern about the findability of your website. There's also a note about trust. When we use, and this goes right to accessibility and how we write content on our website too. If we use acronyms in our copy, it doesn't foster a feeling of inclusion because we're not involving everyone in the conversation, and we're being exclusive when we say that, you know, TLDR, and I don't explain what that means to folks. When we spell things out, when we make things very clear, we are welcoming more people to our website, which means the chances of them visiting our website goes up. And that's what we want. Like, that's why we have a website in the first place. So people visit it and use the information that we have. So when we think about our domain names that we have, let's think about what are the things that people are identifying with our website. And I hope Student Health Services doesn't mind. So we're just talking about this very topic with them. So they're SHS right now, which is, okay, it's an acronym, and maybe it's a known acronym because it's been there for so long. But what if, and you know, as we switch to this new platform, this is an opportunity. Remember, we talked about how this is an opportunity to change and rethink the way we do things. What if it was just health.ucsc.edu? Does that say the same thing as SHS, or does it say it clearer? Like, that might be an option to think about. And I'd like everyone to think about that as your domains as we move forward here. It's okay to reconsider a URL and a domain, and you'll have answers like, is that going to affect my SEO if I change domains? Maybe, but like, what about the people who are new and trying to find your site? What about those people too? There's a couple different takes as to how we present this. And what I want you to do is just think about this process right now and think about it moving forward. Thank you for everyone and your feedback in the notes here. Rob, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to sort of add that historically we did encourage the shortest possible domain name, and that would have meant using acronyms. So I know that a lot of sites existing today use acronyms because that was a recommendation that you probably heard from me or from somebody in my group in the past. So just acknowledging that this is a change in strategy, I think a smart one, given, you know, what we're seeing on a screen right now. And if you have an acronym in there from the past, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, I think we're recognizing that going forward, a better strategy is to bring that clarity of an obvious CNAME to your website.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Rosa, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I have a question. Is it possible that somebody else can request the domain you're using currently? So if somebody wanted to use orientation@ucsc.edu, could they?
I mean, Rob's going to say no to this. You go ahead and answer it. Yeah.
Yeah, not without your permission.
Yeah.
we will only provision names that aren't taken, and if they are taken, we're actually pretty hesitant to do anything about that because there's an existing site there. There are some instances where a formerly used name can get reused, but no, we'll never give a site your domain name without at least coming to you. I can't even think, even then, I don't think we would do it.
Yeah. Yep. Noting, yeah, in chat here, there are lots of examples of acronyms in use, and yes, UCSC is an acronym too. I know. I would still make the argument that a user-friendly, and that's why we would think about this. It's an experience. It's an experiential thing about thinking about the people who are coming to our website. Are they going to get the information that they need? And are they going to be assured that that's the website that they want to go to? Moon, yes, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thanks. Just a follow-up question on Rosa's, and that is, there's a human looking at the requests who might see, this sounds a lot like this other department, like Pauline gives the example of health center would be clearer than health because health could get confused with the global health academic program, which, yeah, that's a good point.
Great note. Yeah.
Anybody who might say, hey, maybe consider this variation on what you've asked for.
Yeah, it's a great note. Like, there isn't a perfect formula for this. And you'll see in the article, it should be keyword driven. Like, what are the keywords that people use to land on your site? And, you know, for student health services, obviously health is one of them that they would use. And maybe there's a way to riff on that. So we don't, you know, step on other people's foot and we find the right space. But it's something that I want us to think about as a university as a whole, because what that will do is, I think, deliver a better experience, and it will make things more findable for your website too. Let's move on to carousels quickly too. Carousels was the other article. I want to thank Lauren Owen for support on this article too. And Rob actually posted a link in there too, should you use carousels at all. Carousels might not be doing what you think they're doing for you. And that's the gist of the article. We've got suggestions on different takes on a carousel. And if you're not familiar with a carousel or a rotating graphic, it's usually the thing that people put at the top and it rotates maybe up to, you know, however many messages you want to. But in truth, what really happens, and the same thing is kind of true with tabs. If you use a tab display on your website, people don't go deep and discover those things. They only are really looking at what you're presenting on the surface to make a choice. And carousels do that same thing. You know, study after study shows that people do not click through to the second carousel or the third or the fourth. And like, you're thinking that your messaging is still getting across, but in reality, it tends not to be. And there's other design ways to lay that out. There's also considerations of accessibility. When we have things that move and a lot of things that shift on a website, that starts to become a accessibility problem for people who have cognitive issues. Because if things are moving too much, and you know, my design recommendation is like minimize the things that move on your website to the utmost potential, because accessibility is a key concern, and it's just like, it's disorienting to me personally to see things that move around too much, even though it might be kind of cool and fancy to have those things. Like, I would limit those things. And I'm not saying don't have anything that moves, because you'll see the button has a rollover effect in the theme that we have. Like, if you hover over a button, it will change colors, and that's movement, and it's minimal movement though. Yeah, move. So you have your hand up again.
So I was one of the people who really has been requesting strongly to have something like a carousel. Reason being that we would, I think, have more control over what that front page image is. So I could be mistaken about that. I just really would like us, especially in the arts, to be able to change the landing page image so that we are able to show different events. And we can also usually on a carousel control the speed. I mean, we're not going to want it to go like that, but the speed of the carousel also makes a difference in terms of whether people see that there's more than one image. Also, you know, whether there's the little dots or dashes or whatever you see under a lot of carousels that people have come to realize means that there are more than one image. So I'm not yet convinced that a carousel is such an awful idea. And I would love to hear more about other options that might fulfill my concerns.
Yeah, I'll address that. I see Lauren has a question. Feel free to hop on, Lauren.
Yeah, I thought maybe I could also just say, check the article out. It's in the chat, and if it's not topmost, I can post it again. Yeah, I'll do that. Just because it would be good to read over the reasons why we were recommending that in depth to help you in your decision process. That's all I wanted to add.
Thank you.
Here it is.
Yeah, Rob.
I'll just, as owners of the campus homepage, which currently has carousels on it, I'll just say, so the idea of having a big splashy image at the top of your page is not going away. That's actually a pretty prominent feature of the WordPress theme. And the way we're approaching it is that we're just going to be more regular. Well, when we need to. We actually have a different strategy for the homepage now, but for other sites, we'll just change that out, and it'll be one image that we change out, one style that we change out. We have more of an editorial calendar. And the reason being is because I think the thing to think about carousels and to really implant in your thinking about carousels is that after the first slide, no one's really seeing that. And we've seen sites that had pretty important information on slide 2 or 3 that folks would have feedback and say, I didn't know about this. I didn't know this event was happening. I didn't know I could do this. And they're like, oh, well, it's the second slide on the homepage. The thing, and I've done a couple of experiments on UCSC websites. We ran several experiments on how carousels worked on all sites for a little while, and including the homepage, and essentially came up with the same conclusion, that after slide number 1, it really wasn't doing anything. And so as the content owner and the site owner, you feel like you are presenting this information, but as the user, they are not seeing it. And there are other concepts that play in here, like banner blindness. People kind of learn to ignore the carousel and just start scrolling down the page because they've seen them on so many other sites, and the information is mixed as far as how important it is. Even within our own sites at UCSC, some strategies have been to just put fancy images up there, not real important content, versus other sites where they're putting really key information into a carousel. So even within our own web presence, we're not necessarily effectively using carousels across the way. So the conclusion is they're just not doing what we hope they're doing. And so we're encouraging a different strategy.
Yeah,
Okay, so they are terrible. I guess, data may show that that is true. So then I'd love to hear more about, other options. Can the tiles that we'll have access to that are going to be movable, can we move those? Can we, some way to we've had so little control. We even not even been using, see, the grass is always greener, folks, right? We have not had WCMS, we've been using Drupal. We have zero control over what our front page looks like in the arts. It's been super frustrating. So I'm just, I'm not locked to the idea of the carousel, but I really want some way for us to break out of this complete inability to control what we are presenting, because we have lots of events, we have lots of things to highlight.
You bet. And I mean, that was one of the feedback considerations with WordPress. You can change those zip zap like pretty darn quick. And you even noted in the chat here, we have some suggestions, an editorial calendar. Maybe I put this one up this week and I change it next week. And I do some other considerations with it. Yeah, Lauren, see your hand up one more time.
Yeah, just that what we're recommending. Oh, did she go away? Moon, are you still there?
I think she had to step away.
Okay, well, I was just saying that instead of the carousel, instead of, it's like we're recommending a large hero image is what we call it. But it's basically the same as the carousel, except it's not moving. It's not changing images. It's that same, taking up that same space, but it's just one image. So you can really focus your message on your image and people are going to look at it because it's not moving. And oddly enough, when it's moving, it's more distracting. And then did you catch that, Moon? I can say it. I'll say it again.
I had a faculty member calling in. I had to take it.
No problem. I was just going to say what we're recommending instead of the carousel is it's going to look just like the carousel, except it's not going to have multiple images, not going to be moving. It'll still be a large image right where that would be, except it won't be switching out images. And so you can really focus your message, your image, and people are going to actually look at it more than they would if it wasn't a carousel. And another thing, someone was adding that, I mean, it is really easy to change out that image and that message, really, really easy. You can have someone do it in 5 minutes, probably, maybe 10. And then someone was mentioning that you can even, WordPress allows publish scheduling from pre-made drafts. So you could even schedule when it changes.
That's what I'm looking for. Yeah, awesome. I will definitely look into that. Thank you for that.
Yeah, there's a yes and to that question, but I want to continue on here. Thank you for that robust conversation, everybody. It is much appreciated because this actually ties into that same question. How do I do these things, and what's it going to take for me to learn how to WordPress? I want to be very clear that you should have an expectation if you have not used this tool before, or even if you have used WordPress, this is a little different. It's going to take some time to get used to the new WordPress platform. We have had some team members, a couple in this call right here, that have been testing it out and working it through to give a better experience. I want to invite Becca Alley from engineering to talk about her thoughts on, from the moment that you got introduced to WordPress, when did you actually feel comfortable, Becca, that you were able to use the tool?
For me, it was probably a good 3 weeks. Coming from WCMS, it's a very different platform. I'm sure if you're coming from Drupal as well, it's just going to be, the backend is different. Luckily, the trainings that was put together by Adam's team were really helpful. And so it wasn't all brand new, but it was just, the interface was different. It really helped that my team had content ready. So the good old copy and paste got really, really fast at that. But then designing a page, it's like, well, how do I make this look how I want it to look? And learning the keyboard shortcuts for WordPress really saves time. And then you just feel like a rock star because it's like cool kids do shortcuts. So it's a fun thing to learn. I'm also very fortunate that I was able to focus. So this was what I was doing. If it's not your only thing that you're doing, and that's probably a lot of people on this call, it might take longer. But I'm super excited, Adam, that you guys are going to make that Slack WordPress channel, because I feel like something we need to remember is that all of us here on this call, we're all doing this. So if you have a question, after you Google it, go ahead and put it in the chat, and then someone will probably chime in.
Thank you, Becca.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask one more question that I didn't, preface before. Like, now that you're using it, do you feel that you can address like Moon's question? Can I make edits quickly? Can I do things faster than I could have in WCMS?
Yes, I definitely feel like once you get in there, it's a lot different than Drupal. And so it's going to be, I think you're going to enjoy having that control. One thing that, I don't know, I saw it from asking Adam a question, was like, well, how do I organize my content? And Adam always does columns for different sections. And so you're able to look at the list view. And this is getting way too in depth, but we can go on forever about what are the best practices when you're doing stuff in the back end. So I know like some things sometimes look hidden, like where's your anchor tag? And that's just, be okay with clicking, click until you find it, because it exists.
Agreed. Yeah. And this is like, these are the things that you'll discover. And like, once you get into them and use the platform, it's going to be easier. And these are also questions for Open Labs. How do I do this thing? Bring it to Open Labs. Lots of people are going to have these questions. Or use the Slack channel too. Like that is, crowdsourcing answers for a quick response. That's the design of that, as Becca said. I'm going to I think that's all we got here for today. I'm going to quick zoom through chat here just to make sure we didn't miss anybody's comments or questions, but this is also an opportunity to ask questions. We only scheduled through 9:45, so let's leave it on for a couple more minutes here. And if you have follow-up questions or you want to stick on and continue the conversation to the top of the hour, or at least close to it, we can continue to do that. And Rob or Bryn, if you see other questions in the chat that we didn't address too, please feel free to back me up here as I'm scrolling and looking.
Yeah, I have a couple
Yeah.
quick questions, Adam, that I got via email.
Okay.
One was, if you've already taken you think you've taken the required training, but it was a while ago, how can you check that you took it? And the other question was about the difference between the required training and the getting started, and how you sign up for getting started.
Sure. So let's start signing up for getting started. When you make your request for your website, you're going to get what I would describe as a bounce back email or an auto response email that will go back to the person that signed up. That will have a link to sign up for that getting started session. I think we might just end up putting that on websites so you can sign up for that. But to start with, as people are onboarding here, I want to keep it a little more controlled. So like folks that immediately need that getting started session, we're able to focus on those folks. And I think maybe a month or two down the road, we'll just open that up. And then you can attend to any of those. You can attend every single one if you want. I think, if that's what you want to do, it'll be the same information that we'll try and share. And we're going to eventually just create a video of that getting started session that you can look at and react to at your own time. Bryn, remind me some of the other parts of that question there.
Just the first one. What if you've taken you believe you've taken the required training, but you're not sure, and you requested a site, you got the email that said, hey, take the required training. Is there a way to check and see if you've already done it?
We will, in the getting started session, that's we're actually going to do a check-in to see if you've taken the required training. And, we'll look at who's signed up for that. That's why we have you sign up for it, so we know who's coming. We're going to double check and cross-reference our sheet. If you really have a question, just email me. I keep that list and I'll let you know.
Great.
Andrea, you've been waiting patiently.
I have a resource question. Are there any resources for getting new photos taken so that we can get those hero images? The UCSC photo library has nothing when you search for the word disability. And when you look through the people folder, there are no images with apparent disabilities.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we would like to have images of our students on our website.
Yeah. How would we address this, Rob? I mean, let's work with the photo library to get some of those things. I know they like the last run through, they did like a photo shoot session. I think maybe this is another good like resource that we could put together about how to source images and making sure when we do source images that we're, making things that are copyrighted. So like things like Creative Commons or, things that have free share. Images that are out there, we might want to look into that space. I don't know if we're talking about like licensing for photo tools like stock photos or anything like that at this point yet, but let's dig deeper into this and we'll circle back. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, University Relations does organize photo shoots for marketing purposes. We organize with students. They're generally very broad based. They're not specific to a topic. We'll do them at different locations on campus just to create photo sets that represent UCSC in broad senses. Andrea, if you're looking for something specific to the DRC, you can contact Carolyn Lagatuda in our office and she can work with you. Generally, it's something that you're going to want to put together either with students who are comfortable being photographed for that purpose, or at an event or something that happens that's organized by your office. We can get a photographer there for that purpose and then get those photos in the photo library. I think it's just a matter of like something that a topic we haven't covered yet in photos.
Before I get to you, Lauren, there's actually some great notes in chat. Thank you, Jeremy, for noting those things. We are over time. If you need to break, feel free to. We'll continue this conversation. And I'd say thank you for being here today, everybody. We'll have a video recording of this, which we'll share out along with all the resources that we covered today. And Lauren.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to that with just an update from website liaison in my department was just that if you use any pictures of people, make sure that they have signed a release form. That's all.
Good note. All right, zooming through chat here. Lots of thank yous, everyone.
There was a interesting question about logos earlier that people might be interested in.
Oh yeah, go. Do you have it in front of you?
I think I remember. I don't remember who asked it, but it was about if you have some, like your department or something history, and you want to represent UCSC and your department in the logo. I think that's what it was about.
Mm-hmm. There are some takes about the ability to use a logo on the site. Maybe Rob, your best stage to kind of answer that question.
We have anticipated that need. We don't have documentation for it yet, but if you get you request your site, you start building, and you're a group that has that now in WCMS or wants to do that, come to an open lab and we'll work on it. It's definitely possible. It's just one of those things where it's rare enough that we haven't thought about it, as far as documentation and stuff yet.
Great, thank you. I'm zooming back and I apologize if I'm not getting every Parker notes, WordPress plugin library. Can we use third-party plugins or are any offered through the university? So great question. The universe of plugins that's available in using UCSC WordPress. So some of the reasons why we're using the tools that we are and why we designed a theme is for continuity across our websites. We're using a vendor, which is called Campus Press, which you might see come up over time. They're the ones who are hosting for us. Campus Press does a lot of things like provide security, which means they regulate and check every single plugin, because if there is a breach in somehow on a website, chances are it might be connected to a plugin that was not designed well, that allowed people to overtake a website or do something with malice on a website. So that means plugins are vetted extremely, very much so, which means that any old plugin is not going to be allowed, because there are security concerns. There are accessibility concerns with plugins. There's lots of different reasons why we would say yes or no to a plugin. And know that Campus Press is kind of like, they're on guard for us to make sure that we don't use a plugin that is not going to be something that we want to happen on campus. Chances are, let's talk about the thing you want to do before we talk about adding a plugin. Like, what is the design or layout that you want to do? We had an instance where somebody wanted to create a stepper, which means like a thing that will guide you through page 1, page 2 of a process, page 3 of a process, page 4 of a process. And they're like, I need this plugin to does a stepper. And actually, we were able to use something with the tool set that we had to create that exact same effect that gave that exact same, usable experience that folks had, which means that yes, you want the functionality that the plugin provides, but there's probably another way to do that with the approved set of plugins that we have. So is the entire universe of WordPress plugins available to us? I would say no. There's an approved set of plugins. Those are listed on websites.ucsc.edu that you can go and check out. And there's also stages of approval to say whether or not we should turn things on for campus, because we also note that much like WCMS, all of our websites are in like a contained unit or a multi-site instance. That's what WordPress is. We have many websites in like one instance of WordPress is the way I'd describe it. And if we turn something on for one person, we have to think about how that affects the entire universe of websites that are in that multi-site, which means, again, there's going to be tighter controls and restrictions about what gets turned on. Should you make that request? Yes. Use that feature request that we showed us. Let us know what the thing is that you want to do, and we'll help you try to, get to that place. And if we don't have that functionality, we can start exploring something to turn it on for you. Will it always mean that you're going to get what you want? I'd say no at this point, but we're going to work our darndest best to make sure we can.
Can I just add, Adam, really quick? If you've used a page builder plugin, one of those plugins that lets you do all kinds of draggity drop things on a page, there isn't going to be one of those available, because that's what WordPress is now. So we're adopting WordPress's core functionality, which has that page builder aspect to it built in. So all previous page builders, there's a number of them, won't be available because you do that with WordPress. And that is the most sustainable, durable solution going forward. And it's built right in. So you will have that functionality, just not with a plugin as it has been in the past.
All right. I know we have some more notes in chat. I do need to break the meeting right now. So I want to say thank you to everyone. There is an open lab if you want to continue questions that I think is it tomorrow, Brent? Remind me of the day, or is it tomorrow or Friday? I think it's Thursday.
Let's take a look. Open lab, yep, tomorrow at 9 o'clock.
Yep, and you can find that on websites. It's right in the navigation to sign up for open labs to continue to ask questions. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time today and appreciate your thought, partnership, and consideration. Have a good rest of the day.
Looking forward to the recording.